One interesting fact about Range Rovers is there's actually 3 ways you can do the volume in these. So one is this way here, which is quite interesting. 2 is using the control on the steering wheel here, up and down. And then 3, like this. Look at that. Lovely. This is interesting as well. What's this one all about? Hold on a minute. So that goes there, yeah. And then, no way. Oh, look at that. Double bubble. Right, so this is my sort of review of a Range Rover Vogue, all right? It's not actually called a Vogue anymore, it's just called a Range Rover, isn't it? But in this video, we're gonna be doing the usual thing, go for a wander around it and go do draggy times in it later on in the video. But there's 3 subjects that I need to talk about. One, the visuals, yeah? I've probably played on the visuals a little bit in the title because it's got an SVO body kit, so I might have called it like a fake SVO or somewhere along them lines. Secondly, I need to do some comparisons between this and a Range Rover Sport because I actually spend a lot of my life in a Range Rover Sport. And then third and finally, I want to tell you how this car come about, because in business you have problems, yeah? Don't matter what business you're in, what you do for a living, we all have problems, yeah? And this car actually came in off the back of quite a big problem. Yeah, I think we need to start off this video with just complimenting Range Rover or Land Rover on how well they make, how good a job they do of making things look gangster. Like that car looks proper gangster. I know it's black with black wheels and black side grills and black windows and black front grills. It's got lots of black stuff going on, so it does look gangster anyway, but they do a good job. That is a cool looking car. So it's obviously a 2018 68 reg Range Rover Vogue HSE with the SVO kit. I say Vogue, they ain't called them Vogues anymore, they're just called a Range Rover. But it's the facelifted version with a 3-litre diesel engine, not massive power, about 250 horsepower, somewhere along them lines, but it does definitely look the part, and I think that's why so many people love these cars, because they just look so bloody cool. So it's got the autobiography wheels, what are they, 21-inch, 22-inch wheels, they're looking good. And yeah, I took this car in part exchange last week, and I've basically ditched the Transit. It's parked right over in the distance over there. Ditched the Transit, which I was daily driving since I got back from the Nürburgring, and I thought, you know what, it was a hard trade-off, man. I was loving the Transit, literally loving it. When this Rangey came in, I thought, I might have to drop the Transit and go for the Range Rover. So yeah, I've been driving for the last couple of days. I am liking it. I don't want to say I'm not the biggest Range Rover fan. Is that a bit harsh? It possibly is. I'm just more of a German car fan, but I do absolutely rate this car. My missus actually daily drives a Range Rover Sport, very similar looking to this thing actually. It's a black autobiography with the same wheels and very similar spec levels. If we hop in on the inside, side skirts look good. They're fixed side steps as well, which I think is quite important, because some of them have the flippy out side steps, which I'm not a big fan of. This car's got a pan roof, it's got heated seats in the front and in the rear. It's also got a heated steering wheel, which is really cool, so proper cow spec going on here. Reverse camera. This is obviously being the later car. On the interior you've got this big touch screen here and all these touch buttons here, which aren't currently on because the ignition isn't on. We'll turn it on shortly. This is all very good, but one thing I find niggling about this type of setup, which I've talked a lot about in previous videos, is the fact that it's solely or dominantly touch screen. There just needs to be a toggle here. If there was like a physical toggle here that you can control the screen with, I just find that so much better, like a BMW or some Audi, but then Audi dropped it later on in time as well. But yeah, I love it. Visually it looks great, and once you get your head around it, it works really well. It's great. So much better, by the way, something worth pointing out, than the previous gen Range Rovers, which I've actually got one there. That's actually a 4.4 litre V8 diesel sport, but the infotainment system on those cars is so slow in comparison to these, and they've definitely sorted that out with these cars. All right, so do you know what's funny though? I say that, and I've just jumped into this one here. This is the older shape one, and the screen on the infotainment system is actually the same screen. Let's just shut that door. Same screen as the other car. The heat and control buttons here are all analog buttons, which I much prefer. I just feel like you've got a lot more control over it here, but the screen up here is exactly the same. I think in fairness to both this car and the other car, you can control a lot of what's going on here with the steering wheel controls, so yeah, I can't criticise it too much. And yeah, I'm actually so impressed that this has got the same screen as the other one. No way, it's got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Oh, how convenient. We've just had another Range Rover come in. And this is the old one that I mentioned. It's got the slow infotainment system. Let me show you. Here we go. It's all very nice in here, isn't it? Look at this, look at this. But. So you can see it's a completely different layout altogether. And then when you press a button, it's just a bit laggy, a little bit slow. Obviously really good for its time. But when they facelifted this version, so there's 3 versions, this is the first version, then the 2016, the other one is the second version, and then the 2018, that's the final facelift. So they sort of facelifted them twice. Anyway, that's enough of them old ones. Let's get back to the newer one. This car's done 32,000 miles, so it is absolutely fresh. I'm really pleased with it as a bit of stock. In fact, let's do the ignition thing now, because the interior is probably the most important part of this car. So it's got a little bit of a tilt going on there as well. Flips out, you can adjust the tilt. Tunes, Meridian sound. Turn that off before we get copyrighted. Ignition on, just to let you know that your ignition's on in case you didn't know your ignition was on. Yeah, so the heated seats are done by this toggle here, which is, you know, that's a physical manual toggle, which I really like. You can also do the heating using that one as well. Love that. But if you want to put the aircon on, you've kind of got to, you know, you've got to take your eyes off the road sometimes and come down here. Just shut that door because that's going to annoy you. Yeah, at times you have to take your eyes off the road and come down here and like work out where you're pressing the buttons. I know this is slightly exaggerating. I am slightly exaggerating this. It ain't that bad, but it is a little bit like, I don't know, if there was like raised edges there, I think that would help so much. This screen here again is lovely. Takes a bit of getting used to. I'm not too familiar with it, but I must admit my missus, she loves the functionality of it, and she navigates her way around this thing perfectly. So no complaints from her. I do think that's quite an important thing to point out. So this is the interior of my wife's Sport, and I think the only main difference is sort of jumping out at me. The seats are a slightly different shape, which is interesting, but the gear selector hasn't got that toggly thing that the Vogue has got. Then a couple more differences. The steering wheel on the Sport is slightly different to the steering wheel on the Vogue. And the roof on the Sport actually opens, you can see it's split in the middle there, whereas the roof on the Vogue doesn't, it's completely fixed. And then also the sun visor on the Sport doesn't do that double flip thing that the one does on the Vogue. And something else worth mentioning is the autobiography models of both cars come with an Alcantara roof lining. In here you've got a cubby hole with a USB port, and then there's a fridge under the armrest. 2 glove boxes, one at the top and then one at the bottom, controlled by this wonderful looking button up here, which is pretty cool. The seat controls on this car compared to the Sport, so this has got the seat controls on the door, which I think looks like visually pleasing. Lovely, love the look of that. Looks really good. Whereas on the Sport, the seat controls are actually on the seat itself. I would say this has got different style of seats as well. Let me just open the door again. The seats on this car are definitely a lot more chunkier and padded than the seats on the Sport. I love the headrest as well. Look, this is what Range Rover are all about. Pure luxury, comfort. I think that's what they offer. Let's go back to that. Luxury, comfort and presence or presentation. Yeah, that's what Range Rovers offer. If you're buying a Range Rover, it's because you want to look good. That's one reason why you buy a Range Rover. One, I mean, you might want to look good because you want to show the world that you're flossing or smashing it in life. Or 2, you just want to present yourself well when you go to meetings and stuff. You just want to look good, you know. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a bit like wearing a nice pair of shoes, isn't it? You want to look good, look well presented, and that is exactly what a Range Rover offers. Performance-wise, they ain't too exciting, but it does drive really well. Is there anything else I want to report? There is something else I want to report, because we have spent quite a lot of time on the interior. We're going to continue to spend more time on the interior. Look at them controls in the rear of the car. If you're a rear passenger of this car, you've got all the creature comforts you need. Don't you worry, all right? You've even got, no way, you can electronically adjust your rear seat in the rear as well. Also, what I think is quite cool, which a Sport doesn't have that this does have, is, I think, is that right? You can adjust the passenger side or the opposite side window via this switch here, so that switch there, yeah, which I want to add is a quite a nice looking switch panel there, yeah, really good. You've also got light switch buttons as well. You've got a blind button there. Oh my goodness, oh my god, look, stop, stop, start, look at that. And then in the back of the Sport, you've literally just got a button for the window, like most cars have got, I suppose. Oh, but wait, one thing worth pointing out is the glass on the Sport is actually single glazed, whereas the glass on the Vogue is double glazed. That's pretty cool. And then in the boot, it's got a split level boot lid, which the Sport doesn't have. So that bit opens. Nice solid parcel shelf, which I really like. Oh, by the way, something that is quite a cool spec option that this car doesn't have, and I will talk through the specs that it does have shortly, but rear entertainment is a lovely extra. Yeah, this car doesn't have that. That's a really nice option. So split level boot lid, press that button there and it just drops like so, and then you've got a decent sized boot as well. And the quality of these carpets are lovely. Look at them. That is better than a carpet in my house, not even joking. I ain't got a bad house either. So yeah, and more electronically operated stuff going on in the back here. So if you want to put the seats down, you can do that via this button here, and you can come back. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Cal's messed it all up now. But yeah, that is really, really cool, really handy. So in fact, my missus the other day had to get Kai's BMX in the boot of her car, and she done it all herself. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So it's that good. Now when you press the button there, look at that. It all does as it should. Also part of the SVO kit is the rear tail tips as well, which is really nice. They look really good. The facelifts have got different rear lights, different headlights. That's also worth pointing out. Is there anything else I want to point out? The engine is running. Not really much to report there. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll throw a camera up in the window, quickly go through HPI, because I like to go through that before we go for a drive, and then we'll take it for a little drive and see how well it performs on my 20 to 70 mile an hour draggy leaderboard. Do you know what? The visuals of the in and out, but I was just going to focus on the interior specifically there. The visuals of this interior are absolutely spot on. You've got to think Land Rover, like that brand's just come up on the screen there. Land Rover is a brand that begun as an off-road vehicle, and now they're creating things like this. So to be fair to them, as much as I do sort of stand there and say I prefer German brands over a Land Rover, I do highly rate Land Rovers, and a lot of people say, do you know what, they're problematic, that I have nothing but problems with them, and or people are scared of buying them. I can honestly say that I sell Range Rovers and Land Rovers a lot. Yeah, we sell a lot of them, not loads, we don't stock a crazy amount, but we've always got a couple in stock. And I can't say, touch words, that I've ever had any crazy problems with any of them. I did have an Evoque a few years ago, mind you, that had a gearbox issue, got that sorted. I don't know. Potluck in it. So yeah, visuals anyway, lovely on the inside. This is obviously the facelift, and they've done a wonderful job of the facelift on these cars. Not to say the pre-facelifts aren't nice, because they are lovely as well. There is a huge difference in value. Like, this is probably 20 grand more than a comparable pre-facelift. That's something really worth mentioning. So they're not a cheap car by any means. We will talk about value shortly. Let's put up HPI, quickly go through that, and then we'll look on, maybe jump on Auto Trader and look at some prices of them. So here we go then, HPI CY68 KCG. It says it's got no MOT, and no idea why it would say that. Well, obviously before we drive it, we'll double check it's definitely got one, because I want to go on the roads with no MOT. Plate transfer, it's saying it's had a private plate, which is fine. I say that a lot. Don't be alarmed that a car that previously had a private plate. It just has to alert you as a precaution. It's now back on its original reg. 5 registers are clear, so it's not stolen, it's not got finance and none of that. That's also very, very good. And then if we go into the vehicle ID, Land Rover, Range Rover Vogue, SDV6, estate, 8-speed auto, 3 former keepers, 27th for the 12th 2018 was the day that it was born, and so that makes it, what, nearly 4 years old now, doesn't it? Bloody hell. So it's getting on a bit, guys. Obviously they have announced a newer Range Rover now, which you've seen a few of them on the road. That's the 2022 version. Again, credit to the way that thing looks. It looks pretty special. I did see one at Land Rover in Milton Keynes recently, and yeah, lovely, lovely car, all right? But not to say that I would go out and spend all of that extra money on a brand new one. That's a point worth making, but I'll let you decide yourself shortly when we see how much this thing is worth today. So spec check is saying £80,000 new this car was, plus £3,375 worth of optional equipment. making it 83 grand new. Hold on, so this car was actually spec'd with 21-inch wheels, but they've obviously been swapped out for the 22-inch autobiography wheels, but them 21s were £2,140, so quite a pricey option. That 4-zone climate control, that's really important. I mentioned that, so it's got the climate control in the rear, front fog lamps, terrain response 2 auto. It's got a little registered trademark logo there. That's obviously something that's unique to Land Rover. £110. Extra large additional screen washer bottle. So many of them seem to have that. They charge extra for that. It's an extra 40 quid. Anything else to report here? National mileage register. It's always good to check the mileage on the car, of course, because you want to make sure it's legit, especially when it's only done 32,000 miles. So yeah, that's all good as well. If we go over to Auto Trader, if you want a Land Rover Range Rover from 2018 with a diesel engine, if we say in colour black, should we say that? Is that a preferred? No, we won't do that. That's narrowing it down a bit too far. Mileage up to say 50,000 miles, and then you begin to scroll through and look for all of these cars here are pre-facelift cars. So kind of what you really need to do is look at 2019 onwards, because that will bring in all of the facelift cars. The cheapest facelift one on there, excluding the categorized ones at the bottom there, £56,000. That is a lot of money, isn't it? That is a crazy amount of money. Don't get me wrong, what they offer is quite unique, quite exceptional, and they're a lovely thing. That's a lot of money. 58 grand, that one there, SVR body kit, it says in the listing. It's got similar looking thing to this. That looks like a Land Rover main dealer. Funny looking interior, but yeah, that's quite a similar car. I would say this is a bit better than that, and this one's done a bit less mileage. The retail value of this car, according to Auto Trader, by the way, is £60,000 on the dot, and then additionally to that, it's got the SVO kit, so it's worth a little bit more than 60 grand. Yeah, a lot of money. And the price of a new Range Rover is from £99,375. And that'll give you a rough idea of how much you can expect your new Range Rover to depreciate over a 4-year period. So are you better off just buying an early, I don't know. Each to their own. Hold on, how much is this car advertised for? No way, 33.5 grand. That is a bargain in comparison to this one. Look at the price of this one, look, £61,000. See, there's some food for thought there. Which one would you rather have? That and be skint, or that and what, nearly 30 grand in your pocket? Yeah, that's a bit of a tough one, but I think after sitting in the driver's seat of this car, I'm actually oh man, this is the whole dilemma with the whole used car market. What do you do? This car is very, very nice. I do love that one, don't get me wrong, but this car for nearly half the value. Let's now hit the road, because I want to see how this thing drives, and I still need to talk to you about how this car come about, because it's just been a bloody headache of a journey. But yeah, we'll talk about that when we're on the road, and then we'll also do draggy times, because that is so important. We need to see how this compares to some of the other SUVs on my draggy leaderboard, all right? Let's go. Do you know what, these controls are just, I don't know, I just prefer buttons. I get that things have moved on and times have changed. Maybe I'm getting old, but yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Get over it, Cal. So obviously what a Range Rover offers is what I mentioned earlier, is comfort, luxury and presence. Yeah, road presence. The comfort and luxury side of it, they do perfectly. It is a super comfortable car. It does sort of wander around a little bit. I suppose it would. It's a big, fat, heavy wafter, isn't it? It's what it's designed to be. So it does all that perfectly. It's no sports car, so if you're buying this to sort of have races in, which I'm sure you're probably not, you're not going to get very far. Yeah, you're probably going to get done by Corsa VXRs and stuff, but we will work that out shortly. But let's quickly talk about how this car come about. So basically, some of you will remember 2 years ago I bought a G-Wagon, right? G63 AMG 5.5 litre V8 twin turbo, lovely thing in black. I'd done a video on that car, and I think I was daily driving it. I wanted to daily drive it at the time, and one day, it was actually Halloween, a couple of days after I bought that car, I parked it on my drive, come out to take Kai trick-or-treating, funny enough, and it didn't start. I thought, this is a bit strange, just bought it, didn't start. It happens, it's cars, they're, you know, used cars, they go wrong, yeah? I rang my mate up who I bought it off, actually bought it off one of my friends, and he's also a car trader, which is cool. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a wonderful person, and I rang him up, said, in the time that you had this car, did it ever have issues starting? He literally had the car for less than 24 hours. He was like, nah, you probably know that car better than I do. No idea. Sorry, don't know, yeah? So I left the car on the drive. The next day it started. I thought, that's the result. I'll start driving it again. So I started driving it again, and then guess what happened? It cut out again. So I was like, this is a bit strange. Right, so I've just pulled up at VRS and check this out. So let's unlock the car. Guess what? So maybe it does it when it's warm, but yeah, look. Turn the key. Nothing. Completely dead. That is exactly what the problem is. So I rang my mate up, I told him about the issue with the car. I said, it's still bloody doing that non-starting issue. I'm not moaning or nothing, but it's just annoying. He said, Cal, just get it fixed, I'll give you the money. Or bring the car back and I'll give you a full refund. Sound, yeah? I said, it's all right, I'll get it fixed. He said, well, get it fixed and I'll pay the bill. So we got it repaired, and it didn't repair it. He paid the bill, and basically this ongoing issue, we managed to solve that issue, discovered further issues. It turned out the car had a small fire under the bonnet on the ABS pump, and then 2 years down the line, yeah, because cut a very long story short, 2 years down the line, my friend had spent thousands of pounds trying to repair this car for me, and he then said, Cal, I've got someone who wants to do a deal with you with a Range Rover. The guy that we was doing the deal with was actually another car trader. The G-Wagon still wasn't right, so we told the car trader, look, we've had this car for 2 years, we've spent a fortune on it, can't get to the bottom of it, it's looking like the engine's gonna have to come out of it again. Do you want to do a deal? He was up for it, and now I've got the Range Rover, right? So that's the story of the Range Rover. This is essentially my G-Wagon, which I wanted to daily drive because I was quite excited about it, but we never got to the bottom of the problem, not completely, and it just got so far down the line. My friend kept spending money, and I was like, do you know what? This needs to stop. This needs to stop. I want to get my money back out of my G-Wagon, and you need to stop spending money on it. So the long and short of it really is, we all lost money. But I've now got this Range Rover. This is now going up for sale, and yeah, I've now got a working bit of stock, and it's a lovely bit of stock at that. All right, so that's how the car come about. It's a nightmare. The car trade is just like that, yeah? That could have been a £600 car, it could have been a £60,000 car. It just happened that it was the latter version. But that's just what happens, yeah? Cars go wrong, they are used items, they break. It is frustrating when it happens, and sometimes in extreme situations it takes 2 years to get them fixed, but it's just what happens. All right, so I'm just happy that now that we've moved on, it's Halloween again, but this time I can take Kai trick-or-treating in a car that works. All right, let's now do draggy times. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Turbo lag. The wind is blowing me around. There we go. Yeah, draggy box didn't even work on first run. Right, we're in sports mode. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Loads of turbo lag. There it is. There's the boost. My guess is it's going to be in the 7s, but we shall see. For those that are new to my channel, there's 70 mile an hour. We do 20 to 70 mile an hour draggy times. So I just think it's good for sort of real world road driving. Gives us a good indication of how quick a car is on the road. And I've got over 100 cars on my leaderboard now, so we've got plenty to compare to. And oh my god, I guessed in the 7s, yeah? This is the worst, or the furthest out guess I think I've ever had, ever. It done run number 1, 20 to 70 mile an hour in 9.2 seconds. 9.20 to be precise. Let's do one more run and see if we can beat that. Surely we can beat that. That's terrible. Ready? 3, 2, 1. We are off. There we go. Out of the lay-by into the road. There we go. Okay, that was a lot better. I don't know how that was a lot better. I don't know what I've done differently. But run number 2, because the first one we can't use, is 8.58 seconds. I will pull over. Let's do that now. Let's pull over and see how it compares to all the other cars. Right, so I have just had a quick look at the draggy leaderboard. Interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. So it's actually got the identical time to the Mercedes X350D truck that I've done a video on recently. So that's also it's a 3 litre V6 turbocharged diesel engine. I think that's about 250 horsepower. So similar power to this, probably similar weight to this. That gives you a good idea. But then, like I said earlier, you ain't going to win no races in this car. Yeah, you are not going to win races, but you will win a race against a jumbo jet if you do 20 to 70 mile an hour, because I took my draggy box on holiday with me once, done 20 to 70 on a jumbo jet, and this is quicker than that. You're also going to beat a Ford Focus ST170, so it ain't no claim to fame, but like I say, that's not what this car's made for. Something I would consider if I was buying one of these cars is, I suppose, other brands, like maybe a Porsche Cayenne or a BMW X5. They're my personal sort of two choices of cars, but I do think when you look at them on the road, they just don't appear as they just don't have the same road presence as a Range Rover has, and I think they're quite, if anything, comparable to a Range Rover Sport as well. The Vogue kind of sits in a league with its own. The Vogue's bigger, yeah? They're the same car essentially. This doesn't offer loads more. It's slightly better in some ways, but it's just personal preference to whether you want the bigger car or the smaller car. My missus absolutely loves her Sport. She said she'd much rather have a small one than a big one, so she's happy with what she's got. It's just pure class, man. And although, yeah, it is £60,000, which is a large amount of money on the market, there isn't really much that compares to it. See them bumps? I mean, it's soaking up the bumps brilliantly, but it does give it a little wobble. This is, like I keep saying, no sports car. This is not a sports car. This is a Land Rover, and you are often reminded of that when you go around bends and stuff. So there you go, example. There you go. Yeah. Wobbly. I don't know, I do really like it. I will be parking up because it is just going up stale. This is not a car for me, although I would love to hang on to it. I always say, gotta keep moving forward. I'll just drive the Transit if I have to. I quite like the Transit, but I am going to wrap it up, leave it as that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, do me a favour, hit like, hit subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Quickly before you go, out of courtesy, I will mention MPG because I think that's important to this video. I'm currently averaging 26.6 miles to a gallon, all right? Is that good? Is that bad? I'll let you lot decide.